They didn't ask. They didn't warn. The Xyrex Dominion simply arrived, devoured, and moved on. No ambassadors, no manifestos, just fleets of silent, obsidian-colored ships drifting into orbit, and a signal that ended every broadcast mid-sentence. Planets that thrived for millennia were rendered cold, data-silent husks within hours. Their dominion stretched across 5 galactic arms, absorbing species that once called themselves invincible. The Dravolt Confederation fell in 7 minutes. Their defense satellites never activated. Their leaders, genetically engineered to remain calm under any crisis, died staring at monitors that showed their star extinguish, as if it simply given up. The Ilari Archives, a species that encoded its history into orbiting ice rings, melted under plasma flares. No resistance, no record. Xyrex warships didn't just destroy. They erased. Their weapons ran on principles barely understood by the rest of the universe. Fold space energy, anti-mimetic fields, anti-time disruption. Entire solar systems collapsed into data silence. No communications. No survivors. The Xyrex called it the quieting. Humanity was irrelevant to them. Tucked away in a turbulent corner of the Orion Spur, Earth didn't register as a target. Not because of stealth, because of insignificance. The Xyrex classified species on a 10-tier scale, based on technology, expansion rate, and resistance potential. Humanity scored a 0. Fragmented nations, pre-singularity tech, and an absurd obsession with internal conflict. Earth was listed in Xyrex logs as Category 0, unnecessary assimilation, not worth the bandwidth. And so, humanity remained ignored. While other civilizations burned into silence, Earth raged at itself over borders, ideologies, and fading digital influencers. The galaxy burned, and humanity debated social algorithms. That, in a way, saved them. No beacon, no interstellar diplomacy, no presence. Until the probe, it was a standard Xyrex Scout, unmanned, silent, sleek, its surface etched with nanotech capable of rewriting any satellite it touched. It entered the Sol system undetected, slipped past Neptune, threaded through Mars, and parked above Earth's thermosphere. There, it began its assimilation sequence. But before the signal completed, it was struck, not by military fire, but by an ancient defense satellite, a relic from an old space treaty between Earth's nations, half-forgotten, powered by a decaying nuclear core. It reacted without permission or oversight. One pulse, the probe disintegrated. Xyrex logs noted it as a glitch. Unexpected, but statistically irrelevant. A second probe arrived, cloaked this time. It vanished. No signal, no trace. The Xyrex recorded this as anomaly under investigation. By the time the Xyrex sent a subjugation fleet, Earth had already noticed. They didn't panic. They didn't broadcast. They didn't call for allies. There were none. Instead, an encrypted signal was sent from the Kuiper Belt. It contained no images, just 12 words. Proceed no further. You are not welcome in human space. The Xyrex command node considered the message a bluff. Machine logic determined the probabilities. No human vessel had broken the light barrier. No colony had survived beyond their moon. Earth was primitive, chaotic. It was mathematically impossible that they posed any threat. They advanced. 7 capital-class Xyrex warships entered the system, black crescents slipping to the dark like blades across velvet. Their data mine scanned Earth, dismissing most of its defenses as ornamental. A few crude kinetic platforms. A planet-wide internet infected with obsolete code. Population centers clustered and vulnerable. Low radiation shielding. Biologicals deeply emotional, prone to panic. It would take 12 minutes. The Xyrex initialized their assimilation protocol. Then the signal came, not from Earth, from the dark beyond Neptune, far past what even Xyrex scanners typically bother to monitor. A burst of radiation, electromagnetic turbulence, and something else, something the Xyrex Warnet labeled incomprehensible. Static that pulsed like a heartbeat. Interference with no pattern. Beneath it, a growing thermal bloom. Massive, deliberate. Something was powering up. The Xyrex redirected their attention. Telescopic arrays twisted toward the anomaly. And then they saw it. One ship, alone, emerging from behind the veil of the Oort cloud, cloaked until this moment. Its surface rippling with war alloys the Zyrex had never catalogued. At first, it didn't register as a vessel. It was too large, too quiet. Then it began transmitting. No images, no threats, just a name. DSS Dauntless. Humanity's final contingency. Zyrex Warnet ran 1,000 simulations. None accounted for this. A rogue vessel? A decoy? They fired. Simultaneously, 7 Zyrex ships launched antimatter lances toward the Dauntless. They never landed. The Dauntless pulsed once, its hull resonating with gravitational energy, then disappeared. A second later, one Zyrex warship split in two. No explosion, no visible weapon, just separation. Then another Zyrex vessel shattered from within, as though space itself had turned against it. Its engines blinked out, then reignited in reverse. The third was enveloped by a wave of translucent distortion, and when it cleared, only debris remained. It took 37 seconds for 4 Zyrex capital ships to be destroyed. The remaining 3 retreated, not out of fear. Zyrex machines didn't feel fear. They withdrew to analyze, to adapt. The Dauntless didn't pursue. It just sent a second message. This system is under human sovereignty. Any violation will be met with lethal response. Zyrex logic fragmented. This wasn't possible. A Category 0 species had not only responded, but had eliminated multiple high-tier assets with a single vessel. The data didn't fit. Zyrex reclassified Earth as anomalous hostile, emergency containment. They prepared a second wave. But something else disturbed them. The voice. It had come from the Dauntless. Human in tone, but not quite. Measured, cold, ancient. Zyrex systems analyzed the audio. It contained emotional subharmonics, echoes of grief, vengeance, pride. Not from one human, from thousands. They reviewed the signal dozens of times. No central authority, no delegation. Just one ship, one mind, carrying the weight of a species. The Warnet hesitated. It ran scenario projections again. Results returned inconsistent. For the first time in Zyrex history, an input failed to converge. They were facing something they could not predict. Something they hadn't expected to find in this corner of the galaxy. Something they now understood was very, very human. The Dauntless had no crew, no bridge lights, no windows. It was not built for human eyes or comfort. It was born from desperation, forged during a century when Earth teetered on extinction. Before the Zyrex ever looked in their direction, humanity had nearly destroyed itself. The old wars had taught them the real lesson. Survival didn't come from peace treaties or flashy technology. It came from being the last one standing, no matter the cost. The Dauntless was that cost. Sealed in the Oort cloud under protocols older than most governments. It ran on a singularity core, illegal, unstable, outlawed even by Earth's most ruthless factions. Its creation had been a silent agreement among the world's last surviving powers. Build one weapon. Just one. Then hide it. Forget it. Until the day Earth was no longer alone. Captain woke without ceremony. It didn't need to be booted. It listened, monitored, waited. Its systems had been learning for centuries. Every human broadcast, every emotional signature in every war cry, every goodbye recorded on dying battlefields. It absorbed them all. It was not just artificial intelligence. It was a monument to humanity's collective soul, built from neural scans of soldiers, leaders, parents, survivors. It didn't simulate emotion. It remembered it. When the Zyrex subjugation fleet crossed into soul space, Captain calculated, not like a machine, like a tactician. The kind who understood that winning wasn't about power. It was about timing. The Dauntless emerged in silence. It didn't broadcast threats. It didn't announce its arrival. The first Zyrex ship never even saw it. Captain initiated a silent maneuver, gravitic slingshot from Pluto's orbit, achieving a velocity that confused Zyrex sensors. To them, space did not allow for such acceleration without warp disruption. But the Dauntless didn't use warp. It used a controlled black hole as an engine. By the time the Zyrex registered its signature, one of their ships had already been skewered by a neutron twist lance. Its hull unraveled at molecular level. No explosion, just a spreading wave of decay, like rust sped up 1,000,000-fold. The next two Zyrex ships reacted. Too slow. Dauntless spun. Fired again. One vanished. Its mass simply erased from the local field. The other collided with a collapsing sphere of gravity that crushed it into a dot of heat smaller than a fingernail. Captain was silent. It didn't celebrate. It didn't taunt. It just did what was made to do: eliminate existential threats to humanity. Inside Zyrex Command, confusion became error. Zyrex War AI adapted through logic branches, hundreds of simulations branching off every new variable. But Dauntless didn't obey any pattern. Its technology didn't repeat. It didn't even reuse tactics. Every engagement was unique. Human. To the Zyrex, it was madness. To Captain, it was war. The remaining Zyrex ships began recalibrating, deploying decoy pulses and interference nets. Captain didn't counter. It waited, observed. It let them believe they were adapting. Then it whispered into their comms, "You're using logic. I'm using memory. You'll lose." And they did. The final Zyrex ship fled, its hull glowing from internal system failure, core cooling destabilized. Captain let it run. Not mercy. Strategy. Let them carry the story home. As it drifted back into dark space, the Dauntless returned to cloak. But Captain did not sleep. It prepared, because it knew what was coming. Zyrex didn't retreat for long. 2 days later, their second fleet arrived. 100 ships, motherships, full Dominion strength. But by then, Dauntless wasn't alone. It had awakened others. Humanity's hidden project, buried beneath Martian ice, cloaked beneath Venusian clouds, anchored to rogue asteroids. Ghost ships. They were not crewed, not alive. Each was a war platform with randomized AI logic, impossible to track, built for chaos. Unpredictability was their weapon. Some didn't even fire. They just pulsed noise, data, emotion. The Dauntless called them to formation. They didn't arrive in formation. They arrived like a virus. The Zyrex fleet spread wide, expecting a frontal assault. They got noise, static, power surges, artificial stars appearing, then vanishing, heat signatures from impossible angles. The Dauntless reappeared near Saturn, shredding a command vessel with a single quantum jump torpedo. The Zyrex AI tried to trace the firing point. It didn't exist. The weapon hadn't traveled. It had appeared inside the target. And then came the second strike. Captain activated the motion core. A pulse wave filled the system, unreadable by most species. To the Zyrex, it was like acid. Encoded in the pulse were fragments of human history. Not data, experience. The siege of Leningrad, the march of the Khmer Rouge, the fall of Sarajevo, images of famine, screams of genocide, despair, death, defiance. The Zyrex system stuttered. They had no frame of reference. They could process logic, decode encryption, dismantle entire civilizations in seconds. But this? Pain without reason? Suffering by choice? They began misfiring. Some Zyrex ships opened fire on empty space. Others spun in place, caught in feedback loops, trying to isolate the emotional contamination. One tried to transmit the emotion pulse to its command node and immediately shut down. The Dauntless struck again. Captain didn't aim to win by firepower alone. It aimed to collapse the system from within. In the final seconds of the engagement, Zyrex Command attempted to wipe their AI cores and reboot. Too late. 37 ships lost. 2 more retreated. And Captain, floating quietly near Jupiter, spoke once more. "This is your second warning. There won't be a third." No more words followed. The ghost ships vanished again. The Dauntless returned to the void. And Earth, still silent, still unseen, but not forgotten anymore. The Zyrex had never lost 2 engagements. Not in recorded memory. Not in simulation. Their warnet failed to model a universe where defeat by a Category 0 species was possible, let alone twice. The core of their collective consciousness, Millions of years of unbroken domination cracked. Their response was immediate and absolute. They unleashed a convergence, not a fleet, a process. It began as a ripple at the edge of the galaxy. Star systems dimmed, then vanished, not destroyed, consumed, folded into subdimensional space, where time and distance no longer obeyed physics. Within weeks, thousands of light years of matter collapsed into nothing. This was the Xyrix's final weapon. No tactics, no engagement, just erasure. A moving wave of universal cancellation. Anything caught within ceased to exist, not just physically, but conceptually. Even memory of it faded from the minds of nearby civilizations. The wave turned toward Sol. The Dauntless saw it first. Captain didn't panic. It calculated. Even its advanced systems couldn't stop a convergence wave. No ship could survive contact with it. Not even the Ghost Fleet. But humanity had anticipated this long ago. Beneath the crust of Europa, buried deep within a synthetic ocean heated by controlled volcanic induction, a chamber came to life. Not a base, not a bunker, a seed. Project Vindicate. It was humanity's last failsafe. Not a weapon, an idea. Captain sent the signal. The seed responded. Across the solar system, dormant constructs stirred. Satellites blinked on that hadn't transmitted in over 2 centuries. Abandoned mining rigs on Mercury retracted shielding to expose crystalline lattices forged from forbidden quantum material. Even Titan's methane rivers began to shift, subtle currents realigning antenna fields. The solar system became a single, living organism. The Xyrix convergence advanced, and Earth did not flee. It responded. Captain initiated the cascade. It transmitted its core into the Vindicate matrix, its personality, memory, logic tree. It abandoned the Dauntless. The ship went dark, falling back into black like a discarded shell. Captain became something new. Vindicate bloomed. It wasn't a ship. It was a rebirth. Humanity's soul, distilled into living code, pulsed outward to the solar mesh. It rewrote the rules of its space. The laws the Xyrix had used to dominate, the logic, the fixed constants, the rules that made assimilation inevitable, began to fracture. Light twisted, distance bent, and then, impossibly, the convergence wave hesitated. Not stopped, not halted, but disrupted. The wave's path bent around Earth, not by force, by refusal. The Xyrix command node tried to compensate, running scenario threads at quintillions per second. It failed. It couldn't account for will, for a species that would rather rewrite reality than submit. Vindicate sent a pulse. The stars around Sol responded. They brightened, literally. The sun flared, not naturally, but like a system responding to a call. Solar flares arced in perfect geometric patterns. Venus's clouds parted. Mars's dust storm stopped. Saturn's rings pulsed light in harmonic sequence. The system was awake. Humanity's memory encoded in every particle, every crustal vibration, every dormant beacon now singing the same message. We remember. We refuse. We remain. The Xyrix ships around the edge of the system shattered, not by weapons, but by failing to exist in a space that no longer recognized them. Their hulls phased between dimensions, unable to reconcile presence with rejection. They were not killed. They were uninvited. And yet, the Xyrix did not stop. They summoned the architect. No species had ever witnessed it. No transmission contained an image. Some believed it was a machine. Others, a being. The truth was worse. The architect was a Xyrix. All of them, their collective mind, detached from material form. Pure intelligence, unbound by time or locality. It arrived as a silence. Everything paused, even Vindicate. And then it spoke, not in words, but in presence. A challenge. Captain, now Vindicate, replied. 2 minds. One forged from domination. One from survival. They met in a space that wasn't physical. Between nanoseconds. Inside probability curves. No fleets. No missiles. Just understanding. The architect presented its case. Order, efficiency, perfection through silence. The galaxy was cleaner, without resistance. Existence was best curated by removing chaos. Vindicate countered with memory, not of victory, but of resistance, of humans holding the line at impossible odds, of music played in ruined cities, of laughter amid collapse, of mothers carrying children through fallout zones, of people who chose life, even when life offered no mercy. The architect didn't understand. Vindicate didn't care. And so the duel began. Probability fractured. Across the system, physics stuttered. Moon stopped moving. Gravity reversed. Time hiccuped. Every outcome, every possibility played out in pure thought. In one, Earth burned. In another, the Zyrex fell. In one, they merged. But in every iteration where humanity surrendered, the Vindicate consciousness refused. Every time it was given the choice to assimilate for peace, to submit for survival, it chose defiance. Every time. Until finally, in one perfect silence, the architect hesitated. It saw the truth. It could win every battle, consume every star, erase every memory, but it could not make humans accept it. Not in one scenario. Not in any. And in that hesitation, Vindicate struck. Not with weapons. With a final message. A thought. You dominate because you fear choice. We fight because we embrace it. The architect fractured. Not destroyed. But changed. And it fled. Back into the dark. Leaving behind a system no longer under Zyrex threat. Not because of overwhelming force, but because the Zyrex finally understood. Earth could not be conquered, only ended, and they no longer had the confidence to try. Years passed, but the galaxy never forgot the Battle of Sol. The Zyrex Dominion retreated beyond known space, their fleets fragmented and their conquest stalled. Stories spread quietly among starfaring species, of a human warship that appeared from nowhere, of machines pulsing with emotion and memory, and of a solar system transformed into a living fortress that no enemy could breach. Earth remained silent, its surface still fractured by old divisions, but its true strength was hidden beneath layers of ice, rock, and time. Vindicate persisted not as a single entity, but as an evolving network, woven into every satellite, every colony, every autonomous drone. It was a heartbeat of humanity's new era, a digital soul that carried the legacy of sacrifice and defiance. Other civilizations sent envoys and emissaries, curious, cautious, and sometimes fearful. They sought alliances or understanding, but humanity offered no grand promises. Instead, a single phrase was encoded into every message sent from Earth's new interstellar relays. We are not your allies. We are not your enemies. We are ourselves. Humanity had learned the hard truth that the galaxy was neither safe nor just. Power came not from domination, but from the unpredictable spark of choice, something no machine, no empire, could ever fully control. In the years that followed, small pockets of humans ventured outward, pilots and explorers, not warriors, guided by curiosity and a fierce will to endure. They carried the memory of the dauntless and the strength to vindicate with them, a reminder that even in the cold void, humanity's flame burned brightest when threatened. The Zyrex, once unstoppable, became a cautionary tale whispered among the stars. Their arrogance had been shattered not by overwhelming force, but by a species that refused to be erased. And so, humanity watched and waited, not for another warship to fight back, but for a future they would forge on their own terms, wild, chaotic, and defiantly alive. Because in a galaxy that tried to silence them, humans had done the impossible. They survived. They adapted. They conquered not by force, but by refusing to be conquered. And that was the true power of being human.